should not be told, and some voices should not be heard in the dark. But you chose to click on this video. What you will hear tonight has actually happened. Or maybe it is still happening now. Welcome to Creep Story, where fear begins after midnight. I should have known nothing that looks that perfect is ever really free. The night I drove out to that house, I thought I was just picking up a used espresso machine, not walking into someone else's unfinished ending. This was October 2019, a cold, windless Friday around 11:20 p.m., just outside Portland, Oregon. I work long shifts at a small marketing agency, and back then I'd gotten obsessed with coffee, trying to stay awake for deadlines in my tiny one-bedroom apartment. The listing popped up on a local marketplace app. High-end espresso machine, free, must pick up tonight. Remote area. Please message for directions. I remember the glow of my phone in the dark, the faint hum of my fridge, and the smell of burnt dust from the old heater kicking on while I stared at the photos. The pictures looked real. Marble countertops, a huge open kitchen, the espresso machine in the corner like something from a cafe, stainless steel shining under warm pendant lights. The description said the owners were moving overseas and needed it gone. The only off thing I noticed then was that every window in the background photos had its curtains fully drawn, even though it was clearly daytime. I told myself rich people just like their privacy. When the seller profile name House on the Hill entered, they sent a single message: "Come alone. Gate will be open. Take it from the kitchen, we're already gone." I laughed it off and showed it to my coworker, Sam, as we left the office. He frowned and said, "Sounds like how horror movies start. Text me the address, just in case." I did. I still have that text thread. The drive took nearly 40 minutes out of the city, then another 10 on a narrow, unlit road lined with tall pines. My GPS kept losing signal, rerouting, then snapping back. By the time I saw the stone pillars with the iron gate standing half open, my hands were already a little sweaty on the steering wheel. There were no other houses in sight, just darkness and my headlights cutting a tunnel through it. The house itself was quiet. A big modern place, 2 stories, pale walls, huge windows, every single one covered by thick, dark curtains. There were no cars in the driveway, no porch light on. Just the faint light from inside my car and a motion sensor path light that flickered on as I pulled up. I checked the app. Last message: door is unlocked. Take what you came for. Sent at 10:54 p.m. No new messages when I typed, "I'm here." My brain did that thing where it splits into 2 voices. One said, "This is weird. Turn around. The machine's not worth it." The other said, "Don't be paranoid. You're broke, and this is a lucky break." I grabbed my phone, left the engine running, and stepped into the cold. The gravel crunched under my boots. The air smelled like wet leaves and something faintly metallic, like an old railing. The front door was a tall, dark wood slab with a big glass panel in the center, also covered by a curtain from the inside. When I twisted the handle, it opened silently. No alarm. No creak. "Hello?" I called. "I'm here for the espresso machine." Silence. Then the low hum of a refrigerator somewhere deeper in the house. The entry hall was beautiful in that staged, impersonal way rich houses have. White walls, a long console table with a bowl and some fake plants, a big mirror that reflected my pale, uncertain face. All the lights were on at a dim, warm setting, as if the house had been waiting. My shoes sank slightly into a thick rug as I walked toward what I guessed was the kitchen. That's when I noticed the first thing that made my stomach twist. There were picture frames on the wall, but every single one of them was turned face down. I told myself they're packing, that's all. I didn't flip any over, I don't know why. I think even then, I didn't want to see whoever lived there looking back at me. The kitchen looked exactly like the photos. Marble Island, hanging lights, everything spotless. And there it was, the espresso machine on the counter, polished, plugged in, ready to use. Next to it, on the counter, sat a printed note. For you, take your time. I actually laughed then. It felt like someone's weird attempt at being generous and dramatic. I texted Sam a photo of the machine and the note. He replied almost immediately, "Nice. Get out of there quick though. That place gives me a bad feeling." That's the last normal message I sent him. As I unplugged the machine and started to lift it, I heard it. A soft shuffling sound like feet repositioning on carpet, coming from somewhere above me. I froze. Listened. Nothing. Old houses make noises, I told myself, even though this one didn't look old at all. I checked my phone, 10% battery, no reception. The little icon in the corner said SOS only. Hello? I tried again, louder. I'm just taking the machine and leaving. No answer. Just the fridge hum and the faint electric buzz of the lights. I carried the machine toward the front door, moving faster now. As I passed the base of the staircase in the entry hall, I glanced up. The stairs curved to the second floor, ending at a landing with a large window, curtain drawn tight. For a second, I thought I saw the fabric pull inward like someone was standing behind it and let it fall closed. I blinked hard. The curtain was still. By the time I reached the door, my heart was beating a little too fast. I told myself I was just spooking myself, that if anyone was here, they would have said something. My hand wrapped around the door handle. It didn't move. The front door, which had been unlocked, was now stuck. Locked. I jiggled it harder, trying not to panic. Okay, maybe the lock auto-engaged. Maybe there's a code, maybe. Behind me, on the second floor, something moved. It wasn't a sound exactly. It was light changing. The faintest shift in brightness in the corner of my eye. I turned slowly. The curtains at the top of the stairs were no longer completely closed. They hung in uneven folds, as if several hands had pressed them aside at once and then let go, and behind the glass, shapes. They weren't clear at first, just darker patches in the darkness, lined up along the window. I stepped back, leaving the espresso machine on the floor. As my eyes adjusted, the shapes sharpened. They were people, or person-shaped things. I could see shoulders, heads, the suggestion of arms pressed close to their sides. They stood shoulder to shoulder, lined across the window, all turned to face me. Their faces were blurred by the glass and the curtain, but one detail cut through the distance. Every head was tilted at almost the same angle, and I knew, somehow, that they were smiling. I don't know how long I stared, breath shallow, legs shaking. My brain tried to file them under mannequins, party decorations, anything rational. This is an art installation, I thought. A weird, expensive art installation. Then something inside the house clicked. It was a small, mechanical sound. Maybe a thermostat. Maybe a relay. Whatever it was, it broke my freeze. I sprinted to the back of the house, searching for any other exit. Through the living room, past a huge TV and couches that looked untouched. Every window I passed had its curtains drawn tight, like walls. I yanked at a sliding glass door locked. When I turned back toward the kitchen, my heart nearly stopped. Through the narrow gap between the curtains over the back window, I could see them again. Closer. They weren't at the upstairs window anymore. They were at the ground-level glass, pressed right up against it. I could see more now. Their skin was wrong. Too smooth, too even, like painted plastic under the low light. Their mouths were wide, teeth perfectly straight, lips stretched in identical frozen smiles. Their eyes, what I could see of them, looked glossy and unfocused, like marbles. There were at least 9 of them. Men, women, one that might have been a teenager, all in normal clothes. Jeans, a floral dress, a hoodie. One of them wore a shirt with a logo I recognized from a local grocery store. People, I thought, they were people. Once. My legs felt weak. I remember my hands going cold and tingly, like I'd been holding something heavy too long. I backed away, grabbing the nearest thing, a heavy glass vase from the coffee table. "Stay away from me," I whispered, feeling stupid for talking to things that weren't moving. They didn't react. They just stared, smiled. That's when I saw the phone, On the side table under the TV, there was a smartphone plugged into a charger, its screen lit. A marketplace app open, the same one I had used, a listing at the top. Designer lamp, free, must pick up tonight. Below it, older listings. Dining chairs, free. Collectible vinyl records, free. Espresso machine taken. My own chat thread was open beneath. My last message, I'm here. Under it, a message I never saw come through, time-stamped 11:17 p.m. We're so glad you came. Something thumped upstairs. A heavy, dragging sound, then a sharp metallic clink, like feet stepping around furniture. The hallway lights flickered once. I ran to the front door again, vase in one hand, phone in the other. I don't know why I didn't stay to break a window. Maybe I thought I could still get out clean, without making more noise. When I reached the entryway, I realized something else had changed. The mirror. It was no longer reflecting just me. Behind my reflection, faint but unmistakable, I saw the line of smiling figures standing at the top of the stairs. They weren't in the actual hallway when I turned around, only in the mirror. The one in the middle, a man in a dark button-up shirt, had his head tilted a little less than the others. As I watched, his reflection tilted further, deliberately, slowly. I didn't turn to see if he was really moving. I swung the vase at the frosted glass panel in the door with everything I had. The glass shattered in a burst of cold air. I climbed through, cutting my hand on the shards, and stumbled onto the porch. As I ran to my car, I heard something behind me. Not footsteps, just a faint collective exhale, like 9 people taking one breath at the same time. I didn't look back. I floored it down the driveway, gravel scattering, my headlights slicing between the trees. By the time I had service again, my hand was throbbing and bleeding. I called Sam on speaker, voice shaking, told him part of what happened. He told me to pull into a gas station. He met me there 30 minutes later and insisted we go to urgent care. The doctor asked me how I got the cut. I said, broke a glass at home. I couldn't make my mouth form the real answer. Later that night, in bed with bandaged fingers, I opened the app again. The listing was gone. The seller's profile, house on the hill, returned an error, user not found. I tried to show Sam the next day, but by then everything connected to that account had vanished. He believes something happened. He saw my hand, saw how I was shaking, but he thinks there's a logical explanation. Some kind of weird art house, a prank, a cult, whatever. I've tried to believe that too. I've tried to remember the figures as mannequins, as props. But 2 things keep me from sleeping when it's too quiet. First, the expression in the mirror. That tiny, deliberate tilt of the head that didn't match the stillness of the hallway behind me. I still see it when I close my eyes. And second, a week later, another coworker showed me a listing on his phone, laughing. Look, dude, he said, free high-end bike, but the guy insists you come tonight. Who falls for that? The profile photo was blank. The username was different, but the wording in the description was identical. Come alone. Gate will be open. I reported it. The app removed it. I know I got out. I'm sitting here telling you this, but somewhere out there, there's a house in the trees with a perfect kitchen and a window full of smiling shapes. They're waiting for the next person who wants something for free. If you liked the story, press like. And if you felt the chills, subscribe now and write in the comments, I am ready for the next story. Because in the next video, we have a story you will never forget. I used to think the scariest thing about having a pool was the possibility of someone drowning. Now I know it's what can pull itself out of the water and knock on your bedroom door like it lives there. This was in July 2021, the middle of an unusually hot summer in a quiet, gated community in Scottsdale, Arizona. I rented a single-story suburban house with a small backyard pool, the kind with pale blue tiles and a white concrete deck that reflected the heat. I'd gone to a friend's birthday party that night and came home around 1:15 a.m., a little buzzed, but still clear-headed, smelling like sweat, cheap perfume, and cigarette smoke from the patio. My roommates were out of town for the week, visiting family, so the house was mine, quiet and humming with the sound of the AC. My routine was simple. Check that the back sliding door was locked. Make sure the pool gate was latched. Plug my phone in on the nightstand. Sleep with a fan on low, facing the bed. The only odd thing I noticed when I got home was the pool light. I always turned it off before going to bed, but as I came down the short hallway, I saw a faint blue glow flickering through the blinds in the living room. I chalked it up to forgetting. I'd left in a rush earlier, already late to the party. I changed into a t-shirt and shorts, brushed my teeth, and sent a couple of half-drunken texts to a group chat. At 1:42 a.m., according to my messages, I wrote, "Back home, pool looks creepy as hell in this heat lol." Someone replied with a gif of a shark. I laughed, threw my phone on the nightstand, and tried to sleep. The AC kicked on and off. The fan whirred softly. Outside, the cicadas buzzed. That's the last normal memory. The sound that woke me up was unmistakable. A splash, not the gentle slosh of water from the filter or the wind. A full, heavy body hitting the surface, like someone had jumped in feet first. I snapped awake in the dark. My room was lit only by the small red digits of my alarm clock, 2:31 a.m. For a moment, I lay there, heart pacing from the sudden shift from sleep to adrenaline. Then, I heard it again. The soft, rhythmic sound of someone swimming, arms cutting through water, breath breaking the surface. I told myself it was a neighbor's pool. Sound carries strangely at night, especially in the heat. Maybe our yards shared a wall with someone else who had late-night swimmers. But curiosity and unease dragged me out of bed. I padded down the hallway in the dark, bare feet on the cool tile. As I neared the sliding glass door in the living room, the blue glow from the pool light painted the walls. The buzzing cicadas fell away, replaced by the slower, wet sounds. I don't know why I didn't flip on any interior lights. Part of me didn't want whoever was out there to know I was awake. I stood a foot from the glass and peered through the blinds. There was someone in my pool. At first, all I saw was the dark shape moving under the surface, distorted by the ripples and the light. Then the figure surfaced, turned, and started a slow, steady backstroke from one end to the other, face turned up to the sky. They moved with this relaxed confidence. Not like a teenager sneaking in for a prank, more like someone using their own backyard at 2:30 in the morning. Every few strokes, the water lapped against the edge with a soft, repeating slap. I squinted, trying to make out features. Short hair, maybe. Broad shoulders. I couldn't see clothes clearly, but it looked like they were in a dark t-shirt or something instead of a swimsuit. My first rational explanation was that one of my roommates had come home early with a friend and gone for a swim, except their cars weren't in the driveway. I checked when I pulled in. My second explanation was that someone hopped the fence, which didn't make sense either because our fence was high and backed onto a 4-lane road. There was no easy way in without going through the side gate, which I kept padlocked. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. My fingers left small sweat prints on the glass. As I watched, the swimmer slowed, then turned and swam toward the shallow end, directly in front of where I was standing. They reached the wall, put their hands on the edge, and stood up. The pool was only lit from one side, so their face stayed in shadow. Water streamed off their clothes, dripping in slow lines back into the pool. They looked taller now, closer to 6 feet, with a straight back and the kind of posture that reads as comfortable and entitled at the same time. They didn't look around like they'd been caught. They didn't scan the yard or the house or the fence. They looked straight at the glass, straight at me. I remember holding my breath and slowly, instinctively backing away into the darker part of the living room. Even from a few steps back, I could still see them. They tilted their head a fraction, as if listening. Then they stepped out of the pool. Water footprints marked the pale concrete. They didn't grab a towel, didn't shiver in the night air. They walked, slowly and deliberately, toward the sliding door, toward me. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping on the edge of the hallway. That's when my rational brain finally kicked in enough to move. I turned and ran to my bedroom, shutting the door quietly and locking it. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone. 2:34 a.m. No new messages. I typed to the group chat, "I think there's someone in my pool." My thumb hovered over send. I erased it. It sounded ridiculous. Instead, I went to my roommate's chat and typed, "Did either of you leave the pool light on?" I didn't send that either. It didn't matter. Before I could decide who to call, there was a soft sound from the hallway. Wet footsteps on tile. 1, 2, 3. They stopped outside my bedroom door. The AC had cut off at some point. The sudden silence behind that small, muffled presence on the other side of the door made the hair on my arms stand up. I could hear my own breathing, too loud, too fast. Then, in a voice I recognized, I heard, "Hey, it's me, open up." It sounded exactly like my roommate, Aaron. Same casual tone he used when he forgot his keys. Same slight rasp like he'd been yelling at a game. For a second, a real, dangerous second, my hand reached for the lock. Then a thought slid through the panic like a shard of glass. Aaron was in another state. He'd sent me photos from his parents' place earlier that evening. I'd watched him pack. I'd seen him drive away. I swallowed hard. "Who is it?" I asked. My voice came out thin and cracked. A pause, then the same voice, perfectly matched. "Aaron. Dude, seriously, just open the door. You scared the hell out of me sneaking around." Something in the cadence was off. It was like someone had pieced together how he talked from memories, but messed up the rhythm by a fraction of a second. The words overlapped weirdly, like a bad dub over a live feed. My phone buzzed in my hand, making me jump. A text from Aaron. A photo of a cluttered living room, his little brother passed out on the couch, caption, "My family is too loud for this hour, LOL." Timestamp, 2:35 a.m. My heart started slamming so hard I thought I might pass out. I snapped a screenshot with shaking hands. That screenshot is still on my phone. "Whoever you are," I said, voice shaking, "you need to leave. I'm calling the police." Silence. Then a different voice. "Hey, it's me. Open up." This time it was my mother's voice. Not just similar, perfect. The slight tremor she gets when she's worried, the warmth under the words. "Sweetie, you're scaring me. Open the door," it said. It sounded like it was coming through the wood, not a speaker, not a recording. My stomach lurched. I pressed my back against the wall across from the door, sliding down until I was sitting on the floor, knees pulled up, phone clutched so hard my knuckles hurt. I unlocked my phone and dialed 911. My thumb hovered over the call button. On the other side of the door, the handle jiggled, softly, not with force, just testing. Then came a third voice. My own. "If you don't open this door, I'm going to have to break it, man," it said. Hearing myself talk from outside my own bedroom, matching my own intonation from a dozen arguments and jokes, was worse than any scream. It made my vision blur at the edges. I hit call. The operator answered, and I tried to keep my voice steady as I whispered that there was an intruder in my house, that they might have come in through the backyard. I didn't mention the voices. I knew how that would sound. While I spoke, the person outside went quiet. They didn't knock. They didn't speak. They just stood there. At least, that's what it felt like. The operator told me to stay on the line, to stay in the room, that officers were on their way. It felt like hours, but the call log says it was 7 minutes before the doorbell rang. Police. Someone shouted from the front. There was no sound of retreat from the hallway. No footsteps. Nothing. The officers checked the house, room by room. My bedroom was the last. They found me sitting on the floor with the phone still in my hand, the fan off, sweat cooling on my skin in the artificial cold. The hallway outside my room was bone dry. No footprints, no puddles. But when we all walked to the living room, one of the officers pointed at the sliding door. The concrete just outside was soaking wet. Water pooled where the deck met the threshold, like someone had just stepped out of the pool and stood there dripping. The pool gate was still latched. The lock on the side yard was still closed. Maybe some neighbor kids got in earlier and you're just shaken, one officer said gently. He handed me a card with a case number on it. No report, really. Just a note. After they left, I turned off the pool light and shut every blind in the house. I lay awake until dawn, jumping at every creak of the walls and sigh of the AC. In the morning, I checked the cameras. We had a cheap doorbell cam and a basic backyard camera pointed at the pool. The doorbell cam showed the officers arriving. Nothing else. The pool camera feed, between 200 and 2:40 a.m., was blank. Not like the file was corrupted. Just uninterrupted footage of still water, no splashes, no swimmer, no wet footprints. The only anomaly was at 2:31 a.m. for 4 seconds. The audio cut out entirely. Silence. That silence is burned into my brain more than any scream would have been. I moved out 2 months later. The landlord said the next tenants loved the pool. Sometimes when it's late and the AC kicks off, I swear I can hear the soft sound of someone swimming, just beyond where I can see. I keep my bedroom door locked now, even in my new place. And sometimes, when I'm drifting off, I imagine someone standing on the other side, their skin damp, their clothes clinging, their head tilted. "Hey, it's me," they whisper in whatever voice I trust the most that day, and I know if I ever open the door at the wrong time, it will finally see my face clearly through the crack, and it will never get my voice wrong again. I used to joke that my first camping trip lasted about 20 minutes. Now, 15 years later, I know it never really ended. This started in August 2007 in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. I was 12, sleeping in a small blue tent in our fenced backyard, the grass still warm from the day. My parents had set it up near the maple tree, a few feet from the back porch steps, so I'd feel independent but still close. I remember the smell of cut grass, the hum of distant traffic, and the faint glow from the kitchen window where my mother washed dishes. It was supposed to be my first real camping experience. I had a cheap sleeping bag, a flashlight, and a paperback I never ended up reading. My dad had joked, "If anything weird happens, just knock on the back door. You're 10 seconds from civilization." We checked the fence. 6 feet of wood with a simple latch. Safe. The only off detail that night was how quiet the neighborhood felt around midnight. No dogs barking, no cars passing, no planes overhead, just crickets and the occasional rustle of leaves. I must have fallen asleep sometime around 12:30. The next thing I remember is waking up needing to pee. The tent was stuffy. My flashlight, set next to my head, had rolled to the corner. I could see its outline against the thin fabric, catching a sliver of moonlight. For a moment, I lay there, listening. Nothing unusual. Just the soft creak of the maple tree and my own breath. I unzipped the tent as quietly as I could and stepped onto the cool grass, blinking as my eyes adjusted. The kitchen light was off now. The house was dark. I took a few steps toward the side of the yard, where my dad said I could go if I didn't want to go inside. That's when I heard it. A voice, low, steady, coming from the other side of the fence. "Hey," it said. "Hey, kid." I froze. The voice was close, just on the other side of the wooden slats. Male, maybe late 20s or older. Calm. I didn't answer. The voice tried again. "Don't freak out," it said. I saw you out here. Wanted to make sure you're okay. At 12, your brain hasn't built the right alarms yet. You think of stranger danger like an abstract concept. I looked toward the back door of our house. Closed, dark. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice small. There was a pause. I heard a soft shuffle of shoes on the other side of the fence. "I'm a neighbor," he said, "just passing by. I know your name, you know. You're Daniel." Hearing my name out of the dark from a mouth I'd never seen made my chest tighten. I stepped back, toward the tent. "My parents don't like me talking to strangers," I said, repeating the line my mom drilled into me. He chuckled. It was a short, dry sound. "That's good," he said. "They care about you. That's why I watch you too. I remember my scalp prickling the way you feel when someone's standing at your back." "I'm gonna go inside," I said. My legs felt stiff, heavy. Hey, he said quickly. "Don't be scared. I just wanted to say hi. You looked so small out here." He stepped closer. I could tell by the shadow that fell across the fence, a taller, darker rectangle against the dim street glow beyond. "Do your parents know you're out here?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "My dad's inside. He's awake." He wasn't. I lied. The man's voice lowered a little. "You should be careful," he said. "Bad things happen when kids sleep outside alone." That sentence is burned into my memory. The exact words. The way he said bad things like he was commenting on the weather. I turned and ran to the back door, heart thudding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I didn't look back at the fence. I pounded on the door until my dad opened it in his t-shirt and boxers, eyes bleary. I told him someone was talking to me from the other side of the fence, that he knew my name. My dad grabbed a flashlight and stepped out into the yard, telling me to stay by the door. He shone the beam along the fence, then walked to the side gate. It was still latched on our side. He opened it and peered out into the alley. Nothing. Empty gravel, the faint smell of trash from distant cans. He did a slow scan with the light, then closed and relatched the gate. "Probably some kid messing around," he said. "You scared them off with your knocking." I tried to believe that. "He let me sleep inside on the couch that night, so you don't have to hear the crickets," he joked. We never called the police. It felt too vague, too nothing. No one had been seen. Life went on. I grew up, moved out. If that was the whole story, I would have forgotten his voice by now. But 15 years later, he came back. In November 2022, I was living in Chicago, working as an IT support tech in a glass office building. I took the 7:10 a.m. train most mornings, earbuds in, coffee in hand. On an ordinary Tuesday, I got off at my usual stop and was walking toward the building when I saw him. He was standing across the street, leaning against a lamppost, facing the flow of people. At first, he was just another stranger in a crowd. Mid-height, dark coat, jeans. Then something in my brain screamed, "That's him." He looked exactly like I'd imagined him on the other side of the fence. Not older, not younger. Exactly the same age as he'd sounded. Same jawline, same straight nose, same flat, unsettling stillness. Our eyes met. Time did something weird then. The city noise faded to a dull roar, car horns, footsteps, snippets of conversation, all of it dropped under a high, thin ringing in my ears. He smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It wasn't overtly threatening. It was acknowledgement, like we were picking up a conversation from where we'd left off. My first instinct was to look away, to tell myself I was seeing patterns where there weren't any. But he started walking. Not toward me, not directly. He crossed at the light, blending with a group of office workers, then angled his path so we would pass each other on the sidewalk. I felt glued to the spot, coffee cup sweating in my hand. As he passed, he looked right at me. His eyes were a pale, unremarkable color, the kind you forget as soon as you look away. "Morning, Daniel," he said. My name, soft, like a shared secret. Then he kept walking. No hesitation, no demand for a reaction. I turned to watch him, but a delivery truck blocked my view for a second. When it passed, he was gone. I spent the morning in a daze, mislabeling tickets, forgetting passwords I'd typed 1,000 times. At lunch, I convinced myself he was someone from high school I'd half recognized. Maybe he'd seen my name on a badge. That fragile rationalization held until the second time. In June 2023, I got married. It was a small ceremony at a rented hall, twinkle lights, too sweet cake, my wife's cousins dancing badly. I was at the bar ordering another drink when my friend Mark slapped my shoulder and nodded toward one corner. "Your side of the family?" he asked, half laughing. I followed his gaze. At the edge of the room, near the exit, stood the same man. Same coat, despite the warm night. Same jeans. Same neutral, unreadable face. He wasn't talking to anyone. He wasn't holding a drink. He was just standing there, watching. I felt the air leave my lungs. The room tilted. Music thumped and people shouted over it, but around him, it felt muffled. "Never seen him before," I said. My voice sounded far away. Maybe he's with Jenna's family. Mark shrugged. Dude's got serial killer vibes, though. I turned to get my wife's attention, to point him out. When I looked back, he was gone. I didn't tell her that night. What was I supposed to say? Hey, remember that guy who may or may not have been staring at me as a kid through our backyard fence? I think he crashed our wedding. I tried to let it go. I failed. The third time, there was no pretending. I was at O'Hare Airport in March 2024, waiting at my gate for a flight to visit my parents. They'd moved to a smaller house a few years earlier, no backyard, no fence. I was scrolling my phone, half asleep, when a movement on the reflection of the glass wall in front of me caught my eye. In the reflection, I saw my own face. Passengers behind me and him. He stood several rows back, hands in his coat pockets, staring at me. He wasn't looking around, didn't have a bag, didn't check a boarding pass. He looked like he'd been there the whole time, just outside my field of vision. My throat went dry. I turned slowly. He was closer than I thought. 4 seats away, standing in the open space between 2 groups of travelers, as if that space had been saved for him. No one else seemed to notice him, or if they did, they didn't react. "Why are you following me?" I asked. I didn't mean to speak out loud, but the words came anyway. He tilted his head slightly, like he had to consider the question. "I'm not," he said. "I was here first." That answer made no sense, but it lodged in my brain like a splinter. "You talked to me when I was a kid," I said, keeping my voice low. "In my parents' backyard. How do you remember that? How do you look the same?" He stepped closer. Not enough to touch, just within arm's length. Close enough for me to see that his clothes hadn't changed either. The coat had no visible wear. No fraying seams, no creases. His jeans looked like they'd been bought and never washed. "Kids remember things wrong," he said. His voice hadn't aged either. Same timbre, same calm tone. Then he leaned in just slightly. "But you remember the fence," he added. "And how alone you were. That's what mattered." I felt a wave of nausea, like the floor had dropped and my stomach stayed behind. "What do you want?" I whispered. He looked at me with plain, unreadable eyes and said, "I'm just waiting." "For what?" He didn't answer. The boarding announcement crackled overhead. People stood, gathered their bags, shifted around us. For a moment, his outline blurred in the crowd. A woman bumped my arm, apologized. I glanced at her, then back at where he'd been. He was gone. I didn't get on the flight. I told the gate agent I felt sick and rebooked for the next day. I spent the night in a hotel near the airport. Curtains wide open, lights on. I told my parents about him when I finally visited. My dad frowned, trying to remember more from that night with the fence. "I went out there," he said slowly. "I didn't see anyone. But the gate latch was warm, like someone had just been holding it. He'd never mentioned that before. He said he hadn't wanted to scare me. It's been 2 years since the airport. I've moved apartments, changed routes to work, avoided patterns. But sometimes, when I'm walking home at night, I feel it. That slight shift in sound, that pocket of quiet where he could stand, still and patient. We bought a small house last month. My wife loves the yard. She wants to set up a tent for our future kids, for backyard camping. I said no. I didn't explain. Because here's what I can't stop thinking about. He said he was waiting. He told 12-year-old me that bad things happen when kids sleep outside alone. I think he wasn't warning me. I think he was telling me the rules. The first time I met him, I stepped out of my tent in the dark alone. The last 2 times, I was under a roof, surrounded by people. Maybe that's why he didn't get closer. Maybe he's waiting for the next time I fall asleep outside, away from walls and locks and doors. Or for my child to do it. When I stand at the back window of our new house and look at the yard, I sometimes imagine a man in an unchanged coat, standing just beyond the fence line, years from now. Same face, same voice. "Hey," he'll say softly. "Hey kid, I know your name." And somewhere in the house, another version of me will wake up with the sudden, furious certainty that a story he thought ended a long time ago was only the beginning.